Welcome back, everyone, to Sip&Talk. So glad you could join us again.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, great to be here. We've got a really interesting one today, kind of mind-bending, actually.
Totally. So this all got sparked by something we saw from our good friend Micky. He's got this great video series, Micky to Life.
Yeah, love his stuff. And in one of his new videos, his friend, Boyu, just comes out with this super confident statement like, I won't be brainwashed.
Right, and it just hit us, that phrase, that certainty. It made us think, okay, wait a minute.
Exactly. It immediately brought up this, core question we just had to explore.
Why is it that so many of us, especially folks living in democratic societies, why do we find it so hard to wrap our heads around the kind of loyalty you see elsewhere?
Like that unwavering die-for-the-cause loyalty, it seems. Alien sometimes.
Totally alien. And look, this isn't about judging anyone or saying one system is inherently bad and another good. That's not the point.
Not at all. It's more like a journey, trying to understand this deep psychological puzzle. We want to peel back the layers, look at some real examples, and really dig into the psychology and even the physiology behind it.
Right. So maybe you're listening, grabbing your coffee, thinking, loyalty. To the point of dying, how does a rational person even get there?
And that's the crux of it. That's the paradox we're going to try and unpack today.
We're not looking for easy answers like calling people crazy or stupid. It's way more complicated than that.
Way more human, actually.
So the big challenge here, the really profound thing is, why do some people develop this incredible faith in a system, a belief, a nation so strong they die for it?
While others, maybe like us, find that kind of devotion just baffling. Utterly baffling.
And it's not just disagreeing on politics, it's deeper. We're talking about what you called a huge gap.
Yeah, huge gap. That's perfect. Because it's not just a surface thing like arguing about, I don't know, pineapple on pizza, though that's important too.
Very important. But yeah, this is fundamental. It's like two different worldviews colliding.
Two different realities almost. I mean, think about it. One view sees dying for the cause as the ultimate glory, maybe salvation or national honor.
And the other view sees it as just tragic, a senseless waste of life.
Exactly. And these aren't just little cultural differences. They stem from completely different psychological drivers, maybe even physiological ones, shaping how people see purpose, meaning, everything.
It's like trying to explain, I don't know, color to someone who's only ever seen in black and white. Their brain just isn't set up for it.
You nailed it. It's like a different operating system for the brain, really, molded by the environment, by internal stuff.
So to get a handle on this, we need to look at the how and the why, how these beliefs form and why they stick so hard.
Right. Let's start with what we could call the positive side. Not positive as in good, but positive as in how belief and group dynamics build this loyalty from the inside out.
Okay, let's get into it. First up, social conformity and identity. This one feels kind of intuitive, right? Humans need to belong.
Oh, absolutely. We're wired for it. Social creatures, core programming. From day one, we want connection, acceptance.
Yeah, being kicked out of the group, historically, that was basically a death sentence.
Totally. I mean, think back to high school. The pressure to fit in, wear the right stuff, listen to the right bands, even if you secretly hated them.
Oh, God, yeah. Intense. Now imagine that pressure, but a million times stronger, and the stakes are way, way higher.
Exactly. Amplify that need to belong to a whole society, where ideas like loyalty equals glory or the group is more important than you aren't just slogans.
They're everywhere. Family, school, media, culture. Drilled in from when you're tiny, it gets deep inside you.
It becomes your truth. And in really coercive places like certain authoritarian states or maybe some radical religious groups, disagreeing isn't just having a different opinion.
No, it's like an attack on the group itself. It's being disloyal, maybe even siding with the enemy.
So people choose to believe, or at least they act like they believe, not just to fit in, but for basic safety, for themselves, for their families.
It's not about choosing sneakers anymore. It's about survival. Your job, your house, maybe worse.
Think about sports fans, how intense that loyalty can get. And now imagine if not supporting the team meant you literally lost everything. The choice looks pretty different then.
Whoa, yeah. That puts it in perspective. Loyalty on steroids. Okay, so then there's sacralization and meaning construction. This taps into something universal, right? That fear of death.
Yep, really does.
Yeah.
We're all scared of dying. It's just built in. Avoid the void, basically.
So how do people deal with that?
Well, one really powerful way is finding meaning in death, making it noble or sacred. This is where ideology, especially religion, can be incredibly potent.
Okay, how so?
Take some extremist ideologies. The promise of paradise, eternal reward, glory for martyrs. Sometimes with really specific details, like the whole 72 virgins thing you hear about in some interpretations. That gives people this profound sense of value, of purpose. It's not just a nice idea. It gives them a script for their life, and even more powerfully, for their death.
It flips the script. Death isn't the end, it's the glorious beginning.
Exactly. It makes the ultimate sacrifice not just possible, but desirable. It's the path to honor, reward for you, your family, your community. It transforms that ultimate fear.
Wow, turning fear into purpose. Okay, this next one is where it gets really wild. Brain science and repetitive messaging. We're talking about brains actually changing.
Yeah, physically changing. The wiring itself, it's not just hearing something a lot. It's about it embedding itself in your neural pathways.
How did that work?
So long-term, constant exposure to one single narrative, like, say, the message, Taiwan has always been part of China, repeated over and over.
Okay.
Your brain can literally reshape itself around that. It's called habituation. Your brain gets so used to it, it stops questioning it. It just becomes truth.
Like a default setting.
Pretty much. It creates what psychologists call a cognitive closed system. Imagine a path in your brain for that belief. Every time it's reinforced, the path gets deeper, wider, easier to follow.
So trying to think differently is like hacking a new path through a jumble.
Exactly. It takes way more effort. It feels uncomfortable. Your brain prefers the superhighway it already built.
It's not just what you think, but the mental roads you travel on. And emotions play a big part too, right?
Emotions stick.
Oh, massively. We got to talk about the amygdala and the hippocampus here. Tiny parts of the brain, huge impact.
Remind us what they do.
The amygdala is like the fear and emotions center, anger, strong feelings. The hippocampus is all about memory, especially emotional memory, linking facts to feelings.
Got it.
So when messages like Taiwan is ours, or maybe our group is under attack, we must fight back, or hammered home, especially with strong emotions like shame, patriotism, anger, fear.
They get locked in. Locked in tight. They become emotionally charged. They feel like core truths, not just ideas you learned. It bypasses the rational part of your brain. They feel sacred, almost.
Man, that is powerful. Like setting beliefs in neurological cement. Which leads us right into the false consensus effect and cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, the false consensus effect. I think we all do this sometimes. Like, you love a movie and you just assume everyone must love it too.
Totally. And then your friend's like, dude, that movie sucked. And you're shocked.
Exactly. Now imagine that, but for something way bigger, like your country's history or its mission, you genuinely believe everyone thinks this way.
So if everyone thinks it, it must be true. And you can't even imagine another way of seeing it.
Right. Your brain just doesn't have a box to put alternative views in. They don't seem legitimate. Your truth feels like the truth.
Okay, but what happens when you do bump into something that contradicts that? Like undeniable evidence, that's got to feel weird.
Super weird. That's cognitive dissonance kicking in. Your brain hates that contradiction, that mental discomfort. It's like error. Conflict detected. Must resolve.
So how does it resolve it? Does it change its mind?
Often, no. Instead, it rationalizes. It finds ways to explain away the conflicting info, twist it, or just reject it entirely. Oh, that's just enemy propaganda.
Ah, the classic defense. They criticize us because they're the ones who are brainwashed.
Bingo. Perfect example. It protects the core belief. It shifts the blame outwards, keeps your internal world nice and tidy, even if it's not matching external reality anymore. It's a mental survival mechanism.
Wow. Okay, so that's how beliefs can form and get reinforced from the inside. But then there's the negative side, as you called it, the extreme environmental stuff, the trauma.
Yeah, this is where it gets into more deliberate shaping, often coercive. First up, education and information censorship. Basically building a thought prison.
So contrast that with what we have, ideally, in democracies.
Right. Here, we generally emphasize critical thinking. We get different news sources, we can debate things, question authority. It's encouraged, mostly.
Yeah, you can call the president an idiot on Twitter and, nothing really happens. It's kind of expected, almost healthy.
We take that for granted, that freedom to critique. But in authoritarian regimes, it's the opposite. They restrict information, control speech deliberately.
To create one single story.
One dominant narrative. And here's the crucial bit.
Yeah.
People growing up in that thought prison, they aren't stupid or gullible. They often have no choice about the information they get.
Like that analogy you used, living in a room with only one window.
Exactly. A window showing a perfectly curated view. You can't see anything else. You're told there is nothing else or that anything else is dangerous lies. Your whole reality gets shaped by that single window.
Chilling. Just chilling. And then tragically, there's trauma and deprivation. This gets into some really raw, painful human experience.
It really does. Think about, say, young Palestinians in certain conflict zones. Imagine witnessing horrific trauma, family killed, homes destroyed, just unimaginable suffering.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that lived pain, they're immersed in messages, ideologies that frame their suffering. This happened because our religion is shamed, or because our land was stolen.
So the ideology gives the trauma a meaning, a cause.
A meaning, a cause, and often a path for action. For many, their actions, embracing extreme beliefs, even sacrifice. It's a direct trauma response. It's not just about religious belief in the abstract.
It's a way to cope, to react to unbearable pain and injustice, to find some agency.
Exactly. It's a search for meaning, for honor, for revenge, maybe, in a world that feels brutal and meaningless.
I remember reading about female suicide attackers, too, how personal trauma often plays a huge role there. It's not just ideology.
Absolutely. Research suggests that for female attackers, deep personal trauma, losing families, sexual assault, social shame can be a major driver. The act becomes a desperate way to seek revenge, find redemption, or reclaim honor in a society that might offer few other paths. It's a complex, tragic response to extreme circumstances framed by a powerful ideology.
And layered on top of all that, you have the reward and punishment systems. It's not just ideas, it's practical stuff, too.
Oh yeah, very practical. Some terrorist groups, for instance, offer cash payments to the families of suicide bombers.
Seriously.
Yeah, provide security, status for the family left behind. In places with extreme poverty, that's a powerful incentive. It's not just about heaven. It's about helping your family survive now.
Wow. And in some countries, just being seen as patriotic is basically required for daily life.
Totally. Take China, for example. If you're labeled unpatriotic, maybe your social credit score tanks. Suddenly, you can't get a good job, travel easily, maybe your kids can't get into the best schools.
You get blacklisted, essentially.
Effectively, it's a powerful coercive system. Belief, or at least outward conformity, becomes essential just to function, to survive, to give your family a chance. The punishment isn't always jail, it's being shut out of society.
That is terrifying. Your whole life tied to towing the ideological line.
Yeah.
Okay, so given all this, why is it so hard for us in democracies to really get it? What's this democratic blind spot?
I think a huge part is simply that we take freedom for granted. We swim in a sea of diverse perspectives, constant debate, criticism of power. It's just normal.
Yeah, questioning the government, making jokes about leaders. It's just Tuesday. We see it as healthy, necessary even.
Exactly. So that lived experience makes it really hard to intuitively grasp how someone could genuinely believe the party is the country or the leader is infallible or that questioning the state is like treason.
Those ideas just don't compute in our world. They feel fundamentally wrong, illogical.
Because our environment has trained us differently. We don't have the mental pathways for that kind of unquestioning belief because we're constantly exposed to alternatives. Skepticism is valued. Our brains are wired for critique.
It's like trying to imagine silence if you've only ever known noise, which ties into the lack of authoritarian experience. We just haven't lived it.
That's the core of it. If you've never had to sing patriotic songs every morning or worry about saying the wrong thing to a neighbor or lived without Google to quickly check something, it's almost impossible to truly feel how someone's reality, their thoughts, can be so intensely sculpted, maybe even imprisoned by that kind of society. Our understanding is often intellectual, not visceral. We lack the reference points.
We don't have that lived emotional understanding of what that constant pressure, that lack of information freedom actually feels like.
And again, this isn't a knock on people in democracies. It's just recognizing our own limited experience, the privilege of our freedom. We're products of our environment, too. Our normal is just radically different.
It's about acknowledging our own bubble of freedom, you could say.
Recognizing the assumptions that come with it.
Okay, let's make this more concrete. Let's look at some real-world scenarios. First, the psychology of Islamic suicide bombers. This one's loaded with misconceptions, right?
Hugely loaded. The common reaction is, they must be crazy, clinically mentally ill.
Right, like psychotic or something.
But the research from places like The Atlantic, psychologists like Gerald Post, it suggests something different. Many aren't crazy in that sense. They're operating from what feels like a rational belief within their system.
Rational within their worldview.
Exactly. They believe they're fulfilling a divine mission, a sacred duty. It makes sense to them.
And it's often tied to loss or shame?
Often, yes. Young, educated, but maybe they've experienced profound loss, humiliation, feel their community or religion has been shamed, sacrifice becomes a way to redeem, to avenge, to find ultimate meaning.
And the stats back this up, not just the poorest or least educated.
Right. Typically 1830, male, often single, and frequently from middle-class backgrounds. It points towards ideology, identity, community belief, not just pure desperation. That 2008 U.S. military study in Iraq found 91% were male, 97% single. There's a pattern.
Wow. And the sheer number of these attacks has exploded over time.
Dramatically. From like 3 a year in the 80s to 1 a month in the 90s. Then after 9/11, almost 1 a week.
And then even more.
Between 2003 and 2015, it averaged roughly 1 per day globally. Think about that.
That's staggering.
And incredibly lethal. Suicide attacks might be only 4% of terror incidents, but they caused nearly a third of all terror-related deaths between 81 and 2006. They have a massive impact.
A horrifyingly effective tactic within that framework. Okay, shifting gears completely, but still about ingrained belief. Historical inevitability in communist education regarding Taiwan.
Right. This is about a narrative drilled in from birth. The Chinese Communist Party line. Taiwan is an inseparable part of China. Unification is historical inevitability.
And this isn't just like a political talking point.
No. It's woven into everything. Textbooks, songs, propaganda, from kindergarten onwards. Concepts like the One China principle, ancestral land, taught as basic facts, like gravity.
So it's not something you encounter later and decide about. It's foundational.
Absolutely. And current leaders like Xi Jinping have tied it into the China dream, this grand national vision. So Taiwan unification becomes sacred, central to national destiny.
So for someone raised in that system,
Believing not unifying is unnatural or it's against history, that's the default.
Yeah.
It feels like objective truth. Questioning it feels like betraying everything your country, your ancestors. It's treason.
whereas from a democratic viewpoint, we mostly see it as, Taiwan's right to choose its own future, two completely different realities again.
Totally different narratives. And the CCP uses history, like the U.S. recognizing Beijing in '79, to legitimize their claim internationally, isolate Taiwan. It all feeds into this incredibly strong, hard-to-question belief system.
Okay, this leads to a really important point. The self-correction. Are democracies actually immune? Because, let's be real, we see weird stuff happening here too. We're not perfect.
That is such a crucial question. And the honest answer is no. No society is totally immune to influence, to forms of manipulation, even things that feel like brainwashing sometimes.
We have our own issues.
Definitely. We have parallel phenomena, even if the mechanisms are different.
Like what? Social media algorithms. That feels like it shapes things, even if it's not the government doing it.
Exactly. Algorithm bubbles or filter bubbles. They show you what you already like, what you agree with. You end up in an echo chamber.
Reinforcing your own views, hardly seeing anything else, makes you think everyone thinks like you.
Creates distorted reality, for sure. And then there's fake news and political polarization.
Yep.
That's been huge.
Oh, yeah. Deliberate misinformation spreading like wildfire, dividing people, making it impossible to even talk to each other.
People dig into their side,
Yeah.
demonize the other. It's not overt authoritarian brainwashing, but it's definitely manipulating perception and belief on a massive scale. And don't forget nationalism.
Right, like after 9/11 here in the U.S., that huge wave of patriotism, flags everywhere, intense unity.
It was powerful, a shared threat, collective emotion. It absolutely shaped behavior and belief. Criticizing the government then felt almost un-American to many. It shows how collective feeling can override individual critique, even here.
So if we're not immune, what's the big difference then? Why aren't we stuck in those thought prisons permanently?
The key distinction, I think, is the mechanisms for self-correction. Democracies, ideally, have built-in ways to fix things, or at least try to.
Like free speech, a free press.
Exactly. Free speech, diverse media, even if it's flawed, academic freedom, the ability to protest, to vote people out. These things provide a much higher chance for challenging power, exposing lies, and changing course.
So authoritarian systems actively suppress correction, while democracies have ways built in to allow for it, even if it's messy and slow.
You got it. It's not about absolute immunity. It's about the capacity for adjustment, for reevaluation, for holding power accountable. That's the fundamental difference.
That makes sense. It's about the system's ability to adapt and learn. Okay, which brings us full circle back to Boyu, back to Micky's friend saying, I won't believe it, I won't be brainwashed.
Yeah, that very common, very human reaction. I think for myself, I'm immune.
It feels good to say, right? Protects our sense of autonomy.
But psychologically, maybe it's not that simple.
Maybe not. Boyu's confidence might be a classic case of the illusion of invulnerability.
The "it won't happen to me" bias. Like thinking you're too smart to fall for a scam or too careful to get in an accident.
Precisely. I'm smarter, more discerning. I won't fall for that stuff. It's comforting. But the evidence from psychology experiments in real life shows, well, it shows we're more susceptible than we think.
Like the Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah.
That one's wild. Totally wild. Normal college kids assigned roles guard or prisoner. Within days, their behavior changed dramatically. Guards became cruel, prisoners submissive. Showed how powerful situations and roles can be, overriding personality. These were smart Stanford students.
Just proves the power of the environment.
It really does.
Yeah.
Or think about North Korean defectors. So many genuinely believed the propaganda their leader had magic powers. The outside world was hell until they got out.
And saw reality was completely different.
Completely. They lived in an information vacuum their whole lives. It proves intelligence doesn't make you immune when the environment is totally controlled.
So it's not about being dumb, it's about the information you get, or rather, don't get, which links to the illusion of choice in free societies. Boyu feels he can choose because he can. That's the luxury he has.
It absolutely is. We live where you can choose your news, read different opinions, click on whatever you want. An alternative view is always available. But picture this. Really try to imagine it.
Okay, lay it on us.
You've never used Google. Never seen YouTube, no Instagram, no way to instantly check anything. Every morning at school, you stand and chant, "Taiwan is part of China. Unification is destiny."
Okay.
Your teachers only teach the party's history. Doubting it, you're told, is treason. It could wreck your family's life, job loss, social ruin, maybe worse.
Whoa. Okay. That paints a picture.
Now, in that scenario, is your belief really a choice? Or is it the only option, the only path presented, reinforced by fear and repetition?
Yeah, that's not choice, that's survival.
It's a powerful question, isn't it? If that isn't brainwashing, total immersion, no alternatives, severe consequences for doubt, then what is? It's not about magic mind control.
Yeah.
It's about systemic environmental control.
Yeah, mic drop. Okay. And the actual science of belief formation shows everyone's potentially susceptible, right? Depending on the conditions.
That's what it suggests. It's about environmental pressure plus cognitive isolation. When you're constantly fed one thing and only one thing, your brain adapts. Those neural pathways change.
It literally rewires itself to fit that reality.
Exactly. It creates a deep sense of reality around that single belief. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you've been isolated and conditioned. It's how marketing works, how strong groups form loyalty, repetition, and limiting alternatives.
It's conditioning on a deep level.
And it taps into basic needs, belonging and survival. Think about North Korea again. Everyone praises the leader, goes to rallies. Maybe you doubt it inside at first.
But you go along with it to avoid trouble, to fit in.
You cooperate. You say the words, do the actions, and over time, cognitive dissonance kicks in again. Your brain wants harmony between actions and beliefs.
So if you're acting like you believe,
It becomes easier to actually start believing it than to live with the constant internal conflict and the very real external danger. Your brain adjusts your beliefs to match your survival behaviors. It's often unconscious self-persuasion.
wow, that is deep, aligning belief with behavior for survival. Okay, so wrapping this up, let's do that thought experiment again for Boyu and everyone listening.
Yeah, let's make it real. Imagine again. No Google, no YouTube, daily chants at school. Taiwan is part of China. History lessons are pure party narrative. Doubting means danger for your family. Really picture living that.
Okay, got it.
Now ask yourself honestly, ask Boyu, would you dare to doubt? Even in your own head. If you did, would you say it out loud? To anyone.
Probably not.
And if you did, would anyone listen? Would they support you? Or would they be too scared? Or would they report you?
Yeah, the risks are just too high.
This starkly shows the difference, right? Between real choice, the kind we value, and a belief system imposed by overwhelming external forces. Brainwashing isn't fantasy. It's the outcome of intense environmental control.
Makes it crystal clear the environment is almost everything.
It shapes so much. And look, Boyu's reaction, I won't be brainwashed. It's not coming from a bad place. It's natural. It's that cognitive self-esteem we talked about.
That feeling of I'm clear-headed, I won't be fooled. It feels good to believe that about yourself, especially when you live freely.
Totally. But here's the final thought, the real challenge for all of us maybe. True independent thinking, real clear-headedness. It isn't saying, I won't be brainwashed.
What is it then?
It's acknowledging, maybe humbly, I know I might be influenced. I could be susceptible under the right conditions. And because I know that, I need to stay vigilant. I need to stay skeptical.
Skeptical even of your own beliefs.
Especially of your own beliefs and the information you consume. That proactive skepticism, that willingness to question yourself, that's the really precious skill for keeping a society free and open. Perpetual curiosity, a critical eye on everything, including yourself.
That's a powerful place to land, and that's really what we try to encourage here on Sip and Talk.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate, this whole conversation, it wasn't about attacking any country or group or system. It was about exploring human psychology, understanding how beliefs form under different conditions.
Our goal is always objective facts, critical thinking, promoting understanding and empathy, even when the topics are tough.
And hopefully fostering a bit more self-awareness in all of us.
Well said. So, if you found this interesting, maybe a little unsettling, but hopefully insightful,
please subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to have you back.
And definitely give a shout out to our friend Micky. Check out his YouTube channel, Micky to Life. He's got great stuff, memes, music, travel, wine, always fun.
Yeah. And if you're curious about exactly what Bo you said that got us started on all this, go find that video on Micky's channel. See the spark for yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to Sip and Talk today.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.